Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a little bit something different. It is Halloween week, which I know because of COVID we didn't really do much for Halloween, which kind of sucks because I love this Halloween. So I thought, why not just take this week to tell some scary stories, mostly true crime related stuff. And I see a Bailey Sarian do these all the time and I just love it. Like, I wish she would do it even more often because I love listening to her stories. I love her commentary. I just love it. So I got this idea from her. Probably not going to be like as amazing, but I just wanted to dip my hand in it, do some makeup, because it does give me an excuse to like use a lot of my makeup on a more regular basis. So like, I forgot an eyeshadow primer. So okay, so yeah, so I'm gonna be telling you a story while I'm doing my makeup and all that jazz. So let's just like go ahead and get started. We'll see how this goes. I don't know. So this happened a long time ago in the 1700s, and this is a story of what is considered America's first serial killer. Yes, I'm missing two nails, because I'm taking these nails off at the end of the week, and these bad boys are hard to get off. So I'm just letting them fling off as they go. So yes, this is a story of America's first serial killers. Yes, that's right, there's two of them. Now again, because this was so long ago, there's not a lot of history about the brothers, as far as, I mean, not the brothers, about them, because, you know, this was before the time of, sorry, I forgot my brushes. This is before the time of, like, you know, record keeping. But, so, their names are Micaiah and Joshua Wiley Harpe. H-A-R-P-E. So, there is some, like, inconsistency on whether or not they were brothers or if they were cousins. So, if they were cousins, their dads were brothers. And their dads were Scottish immigrants that immigrated here from to America from Scotland, and they started living in North Carolina. Sorry, I'm reading the notes from my paper here. So again, there's kind of some debate whether they were brothers or they were cousins. Unclear which, but the reasons that they were unclear is because if they were cousins, they did grow up together and they spent a lot of time together and they looked very similar. So they themselves called themselves brothers. So Micaiah was called Big Harpe, and Wiley was called Little Harpe. That was kind of their nicknames, and that's kind of how they operated. So again, this is back long time ago. So again, not too much family history on them, but what it is said is that their families were British sympathizers, and when the American Revolution started, they did, you know, switch sides, and they were on the American side. However, the Americans didn't want anything to do with them, so the Harpes, they fought for the British side during the American Revolutionary War. So, I mean, from all accounts, they were only involved in the war because they liked violence. So they were going around, you know, fighting battles, but mostly destroying property, raping women, just very, very violent during the war. Again, there's no real backstory as to why they were so, you know, violent. It's just that is what they were doing. So they left the army around 1780s, and during this time they were still going around kind of being violent and everything. They didn't change their ways even though they were no longer in the military. And they were actually joined with like a Native American tribe, but then they got news that like that tribe was going to be like slaughtered, so they left. And so as they're like fleeing across the country, I mean, as much as you can flee back then because it was before, you know, mass transit, but they ended up going to some town and kidnapping two women and making them their wives. Now, some people tried to intervene, and supposedly they killed the people that tried to intervene. And so as they have taken these women and they've kidnapped them and they are, you know, their wives, they do impregnate the women, and it said that they killed their own children. For what reason, we do not know, but supposedly they did. So you can imagine how terrifying they already are with this. Now, they, like I said, they continue going cross country kind of, and you know, during this time they're, like I said, just destroying properties, raiding villages. They finally settled in Knoxville. So when they settled there, little Harpe, even though they have these two wives that they had impregnated, he decides to marry another woman. And so he marries this other woman, and so the two wives, the one that was supposedly little Harpe's wife, is given to Big Harpe, and he has two wives, which I know, crazy. So then, while they're in Knoxville, of course, they're not up to no good, and they're accused of, like, stealing other people's, like, livestock, property, and whatnot, and because of that, they get kicked out of Knoxville. Basically, the locals are like, you gotta go. You're just causing too much trouble. You got to go. So, as they leave Knoxville, and they're on their way to wherever, this is when they're accused of committing their first murder. Now, again, there isn't too much, like, as to why they're the way they are, but this is what happened. So, their victim is a man named Johnson, and what happens is that they his body was found in a river, and it was covered supposedly in urine. His chest had been cut open, he had been disemboweled, and they had put rocks in his chest to, like, help him, like, sink in the water, and this would kind of become, like, their signature as far as their murderers were concerned. So, oh wait, sorry. I'm, like, so confused right now. My dog's barking. So yeah, so this would kind of become their signature as far as how they would kill people. Well, actually, let's rewind. So they flee Knoxville, and as they're fleeing Knoxville, that's when they commit their first murder. That's where I got it wrong. As they're fleeing Knoxville, they commit their first murder, and it's a peddler that's just, like, you know, traveling wherever, and they steal his belongings, and then they continue to flee. So then, as you know, they're trying to find a place. This is when they commit their second murder, and that's the man that was found in the river, covered with urine, chest cut open, disemboweled, rocks put in his chest to help him, like, sink. And he had offered to buy them dinner at, like, an inn or whatever, and somebody identified them, and so they were captured, but then they escaped, and then they sent a posse off after them, and the posse was offered, like, $300 to go and get them, which $300 back then was a lot of money. So they're being pursued, and because they're being pursued, they leave their wives somewhere. I don't know where, how, what, but they leave their wives, and as they're fleeing, they're continuing to kill people. So they kill more men along their way for whatever reason, to get supplies, just because they get in their way, they try to stop them, whatever the case may be, they're killing more people. So then they link up with the Samuel Mason gang, which is a gang that they were stationed on, on a river, and they were kind of like pirates. They were kind of like rob like what were they called? The boats that would go down the river. They would kind of rob them and everything. And at this point, somehow their wives and their children were able to join back up with them. So they stayed with the gang. However, while they're with the gang kind of notices, like, these guys are a little cray-cray, because they're like, just like, you know, the gang is all about stealing, you know, so that they can like sell that stuff to get money or whatever. The Hart brothers are all about just randomly killing people for no reason and being extremely, extremely violent. And so the gang is kind of like, okay, guys, like, that's really not like what we're about here. So the gang asks them to leave. Which, I mean, you have to know, like, you're doing pretty bad, like, you're pretty horrible if, you know, you're part of a gang and they're like, yeah, you're too much for us, so you got to go. So at this point, they go back to Tennessee, and they're still being pursued by this posse, by the way. They're still, like, on the run. So, they go back to Tennessee, and while in Tennessee, they are accused of killing various people. A lot of bodies started showing up. They were disemboweled, and their cavities were filled with rocks, and sometimes their throats have been slashed. Now, because of that first murder, people pretty quickly, you know, tied it to the Hart brothers. And so, again, the posse is still pursuing them. So, and they did not discriminate, okay? So, whole families were found killed, including the children. They literally did not care at all whatsoever. And again, there is no story as to why it was that these brothers were this violent or why they were like this. Like, we don't know. And then again, they had already been known to kill their kids, and it is said that Big Harpe killed his baby daughter because she would not stop crying. And again, mind you, he has the 2 wives, and then Little Harpe has his wife, right? And they're all together. So, like, they finally, after murdering, so a lady, she offers their shelter for the night or whatever, and the baby starts crying, and one of the Hart brothers is like, you know, I don't like crying babies, and so kills the baby, like slits the baby's throat, and then kills the mother. And then I think word gets the posse of where they're at, and the posse catches up to them not too long after. And they like start firing at them, and they are like, you know, shooting to kill basically, because, you know, these guys have done a lot, and they have literally just gone around killing people for no freaking reason. So Little Harpe gets away, but Big Harpe gets shot in the leg, okay? And because he gets shot in the leg, obviously he gets captured. However, the posse has like no freaking mercy for Big Harpe. And so as he's dying, he admits, yes, he killed all these people. He admits to at least 20 murders with his brother. And it's said that among the posse is one of the family members of somebody that they killed. And as Big Harpe, I don't know why I keep saying Big Harpe. Big Harpe is dying, they cut his head off while he's still alive, which is pretty brutal. But I guess they felt like, you know, hey, he's been killing all these people, so like he should make a similar end. I don't really know, but that was like, when I heard that, I was like, whoa, these people of the old West, clearly did not play any games whatsoever. So as I said, at this point, the wives and the children, once Big Harpe is dead, the wife and the children are actually charged as accomplices. Not the children, but the wives are charged as accomplices to the crime spree. So they're kind of in prison or in jail or whatever, awaiting trial. And then, like, little Harpe goes, and he goes back to the Mason gang, which they were with before, but they got asked to leave because, you know, they were crazy. So he is there with the Sam Mason gang for about 4 years. So what happens is a bounty goes out for the leader of the Sam Mason gang, right? And it's like, I don't know how much money it was. There was a cash reward for whoever caught him, and they have to bring his head in to claim, you know, the cash. So, which is like little Harpe and another member of the gang decide to plot to kill the leader of the Sam Mason gang. And you're thinking, what the heck? Yeah, he had changed his name by this time, and I guess he thought, like, maybe nobody's gonna recognize me, whatever. I don't know. But him and this other guy from the gang kill the leader. And then they go to collect the bounty. And when he goes, little Harpe is recognized and he is arrested. And I'm not sure if there was actually like an actual trial at all, or if they were just like, yeah, this dude's guilty, so like just hang him. I'm not really sure. Like I said, there's not a lot of information because this happened way back in the day. But he is captured and he is hung. He is executed. And again, like, the wives and the children are eventually let go, and it is said that the wives went on to remarry and like have other children, and I guess live like, you know, normal lives. I mean, they kind of were held captive and whatnot, so it's kind of like, I don't know how much normal life you can live after that experience, but that is what happened with them. It is also said that the family members of the Harpes, like their later generations, ended up changing their last name so that they would not be associated with what happened as far as their murders that occurred and that their relatives were involved in. So yeah, again, there wasn't like a lot of information because this happened like in the 1700s, before there was like, you know, real ways of recording this stuff. But again, Harpe brothers were, again, at least they were captured, but it is said that, you know, there really isn't an exact count to how many people they actually killed. They, like I said, Big Harpe admitted to like killing 20 people, but they believe it was more. And again, back in those days, how would you really know? Because, you know, it wasn't like people kept in contact. It wasn't like, you know, and some, you know, and for the most part, it was like the frontier where people lived hundreds of miles away from each other. So it wasn't like they were all close together and they knew everybody. So it was kind of hard to tell. And again, there was not those records of where people were traveling, what they were doing, what they were up to. And it could take months before somebody like realized like, oh, Jimmy's missing, you know what I mean? So, yeah. So that is the story of America's first serial killer. Now, the first serial killer ever, I guess, is H.H. Holmes, which he has like, that's a whole nother ball game, and I'm sure there's so many videos on him that you can go and look up, because that dude was super crazy. But I never knew who was like America's first serial killer. I don't know. no, H.H. Holmes is like the worst serial killer ever because he killed like a shit ton of people and he built a whole house and everything. That's what he is. But I never knew who was like the first serial killer. I just kind of Googled it and saw what it said. And again, this is in the United States. I will be going around the world with my other stories. So yeah, this one was just a quick deep dive, kind of like intro into the world of serial killers. If you guys have any questions or suggestions of who you want to see next, like I said, I'm going to try to do one every single day this week of Halloween. I will be listing all the products that I use. I kind of just like went really fast because I didn't know what I was doing with my eyes. But yeah, if you have any questions or you want to hear more about a certain person or something, I'm trying not to do ones that everybody else has already done. I'm trying to like look up obscure ones that are kind of like, you know, maybe not from the US, other parts of the country, because other countries have serial killers as well. It's not just an American thing. So yes, and this is something that I'm interested in. Who isn't these days? But yes, happy Halloween week, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.